Live from the studio, I'm Jimmy Selesky.
I'm Eric Glazer.
And we got a special guest after just having sold ourselves to the devil for this guest here, folks. We got Aaron Dante of the No Pix After Dark podcast.
What's up? How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm just chilling, taking the vibe in.
I'm
Is
glad
that-
we could finally make this happen.
Seriously, man.
It's been in the making for a minute.
a long time. Definitely a long time.
Is that your real name, Aaron Dante, or is that the mic? What do they call it for radio? I know for music they go stage name.
Stage name. We'll go with that.
Stage
We'll go
name.
with stage name.
That's good, dude.
We'll go with that.
That's good. So I obviously you guys set this up,
Right,
you know?
right.
And I did some research. Eric texted me. He was like, "Oh, we got the No Pix After Dark guy coming on." I was like, "That sounds familiar," but I wasn't completely caught up with it yet. And I looked you up, and you are, according to the best of my research, the three-peat Baltimore Sun's best podcast in Baltimore.
That's what they say. That's
Well-
what they say. That's what the people. That's what the readers tell me. The reader's the one who votes. So that's who voted. So
2019. How does that happen? Do you get like a letter in the mail, like a golden ticket?
no, it's really weird how it's all happened on a weird way. So in 2020, like I just was like, hey, told a coworker we should write me in as a candidate, and they're like, whatever, we'll write it in as a joke. Mm-hmm. It was a running joke, and then all of a sudden, like it caught on fire. But then it was right before the pandemic happened. And so people were like, oh, we got nothing else to do. So we like your show. It's been on for a year. Let's vote for it.
So you had the podcast for a year at that point.
Yeah, I had a year. I started in 2019, and it was trial by error.
Okay. And was that your first kind of endeavor in the podcast realm? Did you have other iterations of a podcast prior or
No,
broadcasts at all?
No, I went to school at Syracuse, so a lot of my Newhouse friends. So you would be on their shows and stuff like that in college, and doing their like movies and stuff like that. So, but as far as in depth doing my own thing, I never thought I'd be doing something like this.
Really?
Nah.
Well, what is your trade, as they call it? What do you do by trade?
I do a lot of things. I
Okay.
do some real estate here and there.
Oh, shit.
I
Maybe
do.
get us a new studio, perhaps.
I do real estate. I've done like a lot of different things. I worked for a famous Fortune 500 company I won't name.
Okay.
They don't pay the bills no more.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Google.
And then I worked for another company for a banking industry, and then I got into the real estate industry with the red line, purple line that was happening. It's supposed to happen in downtown Baltimore.
Yeah.
It never happened.
The red line and purple line, was that the initial write-ups for like an actual, I don't know if it was supposed to be a subway, but just some type of like public transit?
Yeah, it was going to go from Woodlawn, if you know Baltimore area pretty well, Woodlawn to John Hopkins Bayview.
Okay.
Now, it was a dope concept. It just cost too much.
Yeah.
Like, we did something. I think looking back at it, if they would have been above ground and did some stuff of it like that, and then went back underground, it would make a little bit more sense. But the cost.
They were trying to do it underground the whole way?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a lot.
It wasn't going to go all the way underground from Windsor's. I can't think. We're over by security. It was above ground security mall. Then it was going to go by the highway of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And go under, and it was going to go all the way under and then come back up in Canton.
That's awesome.
And that way you could have dropped everybody off on the way. I thought it was a cool concept because you
Yeah,
can go to
for
the
sure.
Orioles game, and just have fun and hop the train back,
Yeah.
instead of hopefully Uber picks
See,
you up.
us from the Towson area, we enjoy what I like to call North Side privilege,
Okay.
which is we have the light rail. So we can go down there to Orioles games. That's how we always got to all of our games and stuff like
Right.
that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the only reason that is used. I know people use the light rail for other things. I personally have never used the light rail for anything other than going to a Ravens game or an Orioles game. We do have a subway, though.
We
you know,
do.
that runs in the same area, right? It's like,
It goes from Owens Mills all the way to Hopkins.
okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't like that one. They were like, we need another one.
Yeah, they
Just
wanted
like
to
it.
connect it, but never. It's just sad. But then that was that. So
Look, there's nothing I enjoy talking about more than fucking failed public transportation projects in the Baltimore area. Because I love the concept of it. I was telling Eric last time we were doing the podcast here, maybe 2 podcasts ago. I just got back from New York City.
Oh, wow.
And I was unreasonably fascinated, like toddler level with the train fascinated with the trains, you know?
Right.
And it was like, I just loved how it just made sense. And I've always had this weird fantasy of like going into the sewers as well. So I think there was like, the underground thing got me too.
Yeah, the TMNT.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think of THM. Yeah, something TMT also.
Yeah. When I think of the sewers, I think of the Penguin from the old Batmans.
Oh,
you know,
Danny DeVito. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So once the underground, I stop listening the second somebody talks about a public transportation system in Baltimore that doesn't involve going underground. It's not fun for me.
Gotcha.
I need the undergroundness. And they talk about like buses. We already have the bus lines, right? You know,
Yeah,
we
we
could
do.
just go back to the streetcars. We have the streetcars,
I like those.
Streetcar.
I like
pretty
streetcars.
sick.
dude.
I like streetcars.
I was walking around with my girlfriend in like the Otterbein area, Otterbein, depending on how pretentious you are. And those things literally just ran on like these. It was a giant wheel with a cable, and they would be posted like different sections of the city, and it would just pull it along like a giant cable.
I like those.
We did away with them.
San Francisco still has it.
They still use streetcars like
They have
that.
Charlies.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still, and actually, New Orleans does too, because you can't build any. They have streetcars too.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's always options. It's always options.
I feel like we watched a video about this one time after a podcast. Didn't the streetcars got done in by Big Tire?
Big Tire kind of did. Once we realized the concept of the tire, you know,
Yeah.
people always talk about the invention of the wheel,
It's the tire.
but I think the more influential invention was the invention of the
they
tire.
didn't make any money. The tire guys, filthy
Tire
rich.
guys?
Made a
Yeah,
lot of
dude.
money.
The
Lot of
wheel
money.
was nothing without the tire. So you've been running your podcast. Let's see how good my math is these days. You won Best Podcast of Baltimore in 2020.
Right.
And yet at that point, you had already been doing it for a year.
Right.
So that pegs you at a 2019 starting point.
Right.
Now, did you already have access to the studio before you started doing it, or did you start recording in like your room or something?
Man, you know how it is. You know,
Yeah.
you get it. You go in your basement. You just chill, and you're like, all right, let me just. I mean, I don't know what system I had, but I bought like a system from Guitar Center, and was like, all right, give me 4 XLR jacks and a volume button. Let's go. You know.
And you went straight for the 4. Did you buy these SM7Bs right off the bat?
No. Can I tell you my first mics were like from Amazon.
Oh, geez, that's still better than our first.
It
Our
was
first
straight-
mics were drum mics.
drum mics.
Oh wow. No, I straight up was like, let me order 4 mics off Amazon and just rock with that for now.
That works.
it
works,
does.
yeah.
It does, man. It does.
And also, why go all the way in? Like if you're just starting out, what if you don't even like doing it?
Right. Why spend that money?
Yeah.
That's kind of what Amazon makes their products for too, because they only last about 3 months, and that's
Right.
about the amount of time that you need to decide if you actually give a shit about what you're doing.
Well, a lot of people quit podcasts within 6 months, don't they? Though? A lot of them quit, or
That sounds like an official CDC stat.
a lot of people do quit. They're like not around after 6 months. They're like gone.
Yeah.
It's like they want to be like Joe Rogan. They want to be millionaires after like 6 months, and they realize it's a long grind.
Yeah, I've found that if you give up on the idea of success, then it's really easy to not quit a podcast, because then it's like I talk anyway, and so like, you know, what if I just put a SM7B in front of me?
Well,
You know,
that's fancy. That's
You know?
fancy. I love you guys' mics. I'm sitting here like, damn, I have one that I only use for myself.
I thought I
that's
saw that.
dirty.
I thought I saw. Oh yes,
But we used to do that too.
So
we used to have better
I
mics.
have 3 MV7 Shure mics that are strictly podcast mics. So that's it's still just as good. I mean, but I used this SM7B for me.
Well, you got to have the best voice in the podcast, dude. You can't have somebody listening to your podcast and then them being like, "Yo, but that other guy he sounded great."
Well,
Yeah,
it's
he
true
should
story.
be the host.
True story. You guys hit on something. So there was this guy. I was on his show, and I sounded better than him. He was so damn pissed. He went out, bought the SM7B and the Cloud Lifter the next night.
Wow. And I'm assuming this, of course, was the guy who was the runner-up best podcast in Baltimore.
Nah. I don't even know who they are. Actually, I don't. Even,
Oh, really?
I don't
Just
even know
did
who
their
they are.
podcast.
I don't even know. I don't even. You know, it's weird. I've only done, you guys counting you guys 11 interviews.
Really?
I don't do too many interviews.
Well,
Us either.
You know what I mean? Like you like to talk what you like to talk about, and then it's always that weird got your ass moment. You're like, all right, this is why I don't do them. You know?
yeah, we've been working towards getting you, obviously, as you can probably tell.
It's all good.
This
It's
is all
good.
big setup here.
It's all good. I'm waiting for that. Dun, dun, dun.
How many of the 11 podcasts were trying to like get you?
So one tried to get me and was kind of fucked up how it went down. And it got played, and it's kind of funny because, like, I'm still bitter to this day that it went down that way. So it was like, you know how we were just talking before the show came on, just shooting whatever. And I said something about, I was talking about my kids. Like, I don't know what we were talking about. I rarely talk about my kids online. And what happened was, I was saying something and I said something else, but he kept that on the recording. And I was kind of like, and when the recording came out, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I thought, he didn't say, hey, we're live, we're rolling. You know, it was like, this is it. And I'm like, and it came out live and it wasn't anything bad or derogatory.
Yeah.
But I'm like, bro, like, you can't do that. Like, you got like I'm talking about my kids.
Yeah.
I'm giving out government names. Like, they don't, people don't need to know that shit.
Yeah, that doesn't need to go on the radio
You know,
or
and
whatever.
and it's to this day, like if I see him in the streets, I will tell him like, bro, like that was wrong. And I told him that over at social media. It's like, yo, you don't do that. Because it's just not etiquette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guys, you've heard it here first. Aaron Dante has kids.
I have
Live from the
kids.
studio.
I do have
exclusive.
kids.
Gotcha.
Got me,
Podcast
Mom.
exclusive.
Exclusive. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I mean,
I think that okay, so we're talking about starting out and stuff like that. A lot of times, because when we first started with I think we started back in the spring of 2016. We had a couple episodes that are legitimately lost episodes, like episodes that we recorded that. This is strange. I don't know if you remember this, but I didn't know this was possible in the realm of technology. But you remember back in the old days when you could tape over an episode?
right.
Or like tape over a tape. We somehow managed to do that in Logic where it was like two recordings like got meshed or something. I can't even remember how it happened. I remember it really
Yeah, no,
boggling
I
my
do
mind.
remember that.
It was really
How's that
strange.
even
That's
happen?
insane.
I don't know. It's one of those moments in life I'll never be able to explain.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's almost like I'm wondering if it was as weird as I remember it, but it was. But we tried, we had like just trying to figure it out. We're sitting here with our drum mics, like fucking sounded great for drummers, and stuff would get raised. But as you're trying to figure it out, I remember we really did kind of start off with one of our priorities as to be the guest was the important thing,
Right.
because we wanted to kind of like. We wanted to leech off of other people's followings. Obviously, why does anybody do a podcast, So we decided we were going to do that. And, when you're not used to doing it, a lot of times what we would do as a trick, not a trick, but just kind of like to make it easier on us, we would just kind of slowly start motioning towards the microphone, like as we're talking and stuff. And then just kind of be like, oh, try on your headphones. And then we'd just be in the middle of a conversation. And then about like 10 minutes in, they'd be like, oh, wait, are we on? And we'd be like, yeah. Because otherwise, if I had to go or Eric had to go like live from the studio, here we go. It was like you would get nervous and freeze up. And a lot of times the podcast guests would. Now, granted, obviously, if we were discussing something that was clearly something that the guest wouldn't want us on the record, or even if the person reached out to us post, which has happened in the past where somebody reached out to us and was like, can we get this taken off?
I'm my wife's lawyer once you guys to delete this episode.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but that
Wow.
was like a mid-podcast
Right.
thing, just a story he told that like his ex-wife found out. It was this whole thing, and but I don't know if this is the case for. I don't know what do you host your podcast on?
So I do mine's on like Podbean, so I guess my hosting site. I have a Roadcaster, so I record off Roadcaster Pro. So yeah, that's what I record mine off. And
But you have the capability to replace a file without losing your listens.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And this guy that got you
he
does as well.
He could have.
So he is aware.
Right. Yeah.
That's strange.
He's aware. He's aware. He's aware.
And he just hasn't taken the time to just.
It takes 2 seconds to delete it out.
Yeah.
It takes 2 seconds. And,
Wow.
I always will remember that. And when they're like, oh, and people know him in Baltimore, and I never say anything about him. Like, what do you think about him? And I'm like, you all right? Because if like, I would never go back on his show again.
Yeah. Saying someone's all right is people know what you mean. Like, all right is the he sucks of polite people.
Well,
Yeah, because if you're polite, you're just gonna be like, oh yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's really nice, really great guy.
It's kind of like when somebody says you're pretty good. Like if somebody ever called me pretty good, I take that as an insult. I truly do. Remember one guy I was playing?
I get that.
It's just like, look, dude, you're not fucking record. This isn't getting broadcast on CNN later. You can lie to me. You can say I'm great. Just say I'm great. It costs you $0 to call me great. You got to go pretty good.
That's weird.
That's not even good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you're in the realm of good. I appreciate that. And that guy knows it. When I see him on the streets, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking pretty good, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you. That's I'm gonna use that now. I like that.
Yeah. What, you're going to use pretty good to insult him now?
No, just in general. Like,
What do you think of this guy?
Pretty
He's
good.
Pretty good. Like, oh, we're friends again? No, dude.
Nah, I'll keep the all right though. It's all right. It's all right. He's all right.
So, So I'm imagining for you, you said you've done 11 interviews. How many episodes are you up to now?
180 plus.
180 plus.
Right.
Weekly episodes?
Weekly. Take off in January every year. I took off. I'm off this month also. But I'm not off. I'm like recording in the background. But I'm off from like
Just like stockpiling.
that's all I do, man. Just because I don't have time. I find that like you can't do it. Like you guys do it probably every week, right? How many episodes do you guys do a week? Like, do you guys?
Just one.
So you
Just
guys,
one,
that's dedication every week.
Well, don't get me wrong. We miss weeks
We
here and
slip
there.
up.
Yeah, we slip
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
We go through phases where we're like hitting it every week, and then sometimes it'll be like 10 days, and like which probably it would be a better system to kind of have like kind of a stockpile of episodes so that you can keep it
True.
like have like one or two in the bank so that you can kind of space it out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, literally right now, I'm actually going to put up a sign on in social media, like this week, saying I am no commissions or whatever it may be until January 2022, 23.
Really?
Yeah, because the way you do it, the way I've learned to do it now, I was always like hustling just to get guests because my show's more guests than I never really go solo. So I just had to hustle and get guests. And what I've been doing is I've started interviewing last week, and I just start running through them. Like I'm like tomorrow I have 3 interviews, and then I have one. Then I never interview on weekends. Never do that on the weekends.
People are on us on weekends.
Nobody wants. No, I don't want to sit in my studio on the weekends. I don't want to. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because people just want to chill.
Yeah.
I try to do them like Monday nights, like for Thursday or Friday night, like tonight. You know what I mean? And it's easy because then you can be like, all right, let's run through it. And then I was lining people up like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and like just run through it. And like sometimes our video guys there. Sometimes I'm just like do my audio my damn self.
Okay, so I think that I initially misinterpreted what you meant. When you said you've only done 11 interviews, you meant
with
where you're
outside of his podcast.
Yeah,
The
outside,
guest.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Only
yeah.
if outside of me doing my own show, you're number 11.
Okay. Now I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But your show itself is entirely
Almost 190
interviews.
or-
Yeah, totally.
Got
nervous.
it. And what do you have like a central focal point, or are you just kind of just finding interesting people? Is it a local based show in terms of like, are you focusing primarily on local issues, or what is your general thing?
You know, it's funny you say that. When I first started this thing, it wasn't for Baltimore at all. It wasn't local. It was more or less my college friends.
Okay.
And we're just talking about
Syracuse.
Syracuse, you're the Q's.
Number one Syracuse podcast.
The
Syracuse.
Cuse. Shout out to the Cuse.
Let's go orange. What are they? The
Orange. The orange. Yeah, the orange. That's
just the color.
Just the gotta be PC. It's just orange. Gotta be orange. It's just all the positive stories of what they've gone through. You guys have had friends who went through trial and tribulation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started. And then summer 2019, business owners were like, "Yo, you got a podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Can we get on the show?" And I'm like, and then more people start asking, and I'm like, and you're like, I don't want anybody in my house.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of, you know, like I don't really know you, but how do I do this?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, let me just go to your place of business and interview you there. You know, and then what I would do is I'll rent out like those communion spaces where you can rent an office out for like a day, or like those office shares.
Yeah, like a WeWork.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I would do that, and I would like line up like, all right, if I got 6 people, I'm gonna line them all up in one day and just, I'm paying this amount of money. I might as well use the studio just as it is, you know?
Wow.
And so I just worked it like that. I was like portable. Like I didn't have no Rodecaster Pro. Like I said, still got the mics, Amazon mics, rocking off. I drop them. Oh well, get some more, you know? And that's how it all just started. And then Baltimore people were like, yo, we want you more. And I'm like, all right, let's keep on rocking. And then now where I'm at, I'm starting to expand further out. I'm doing a lot more DC
Okay.
interviews. Some Lancaster, PA, the Amish up there. Shout out to Lancaster, PA.
There you go. Oh, you got some Amish people on a podcast?
Not yet. But they're up there.
Dude.
Not yet.
Okay.
It's technology. They can't use
That'd
technology.
be crazy.
They can't use technology.
Just
though.
like hide
Well,
a mic
Amazon
in a
mics.
soft pretzel or something.
It's a stretch to call it technology.
But you know, you can't
No,
have that.
this is an Amazon mic. Don't worry. It's
But I got some cool spots up there. Some cool like furniture stores, like that, like some really cool like stuff. Like, oh wow, so it's really cool that I'm expanding out of Baltimore. I love Baltimore. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
But it's only so much you can tell, and then how many times will that story be recycled by another podcast?
Exactly.
And then you're like, you know what? I'm good. You're already on their show. I'm good. I mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
to talk about.
Plus, it's like me from Baltimore. I would love to watch a podcast. I would love to just, I don't know how you would go about podcasting with an Amish person, but this is another thing we discussed before is sometimes I think some of that shit's a hoax because I went to the Amish market. They're definitely using electricity there.
Oh, I know they do. I know they do.
They can use electricity to make money.
Right.
They just can't use it at their house.
Oh, is that a real thing?
I think so, yeah.
I was about to say, I was expecting like a fucking 75 hamsters on wheels and shit in the back.
Nah,
Like,
they make their money. Don't get it. Don't get it twisted. They make that money.
so you could give them like $5 and be like, do my podcast now, dude.
Nah, they won't let me. It's pleasure. That's pleasure.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true.
not-
You
it's
could make
not.
them pay you $5.
No, you know what? I got some fresh eggs from the Amish a couple weeks ago, man. It was good. They were like really like eggs were just laid like in 2 days. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the best.
I would just love to. I mean, it wouldn't be an untouched subject, but I haven't really Googled it. But I would love to just kind of glimpse inside the mind of that, just to understand like what their perspective is on everything and how they see things and what their beef is with electricity. You know, it's like
That'd be interesting. Did you
What's the
guys?
holdup?
Do you guys remember the show, that TV show, The Amish Mafia?
vaguely.
No.
There was a show. You Google it. It was a show of like the Amish Mafia that was like in like talking about how like gangster they were.
Was it like MTV show
It was one of those
or
stations.
like TLC?
It was
or
one of
something
those
like
stations.
I
Yeah.
know
And
it
it
was
was
like
like-
Breaking Amish. That was
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
It was like wild, and I was like, "This is pretty badass." Like I watched the show a couple times.
Yeah. That was insane just because like a lot of them went back to being Amish after that. 'Cause it's like the Rumspringa, right? Like they're kind of
Nailed
like
up.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
I know.
what it was. Breaking Amish.
Yeah, Breaking Amish.
That was the show.
But there was a Amish Mafia in that show.
I'm pretty sure because they were like gangsters on it. It was like it was really weird.
Amish
It was
gangsters.
weird. It was
Maybe
weird.
they were really inspired by that Weird Al song. Remember that one?
Amish Paradise.
It was real. So
Yeah,
it was
just fully
on.
like wood fucking carved Tommy guns.
Hold up. Here we go. Amish Mafia.
Amish Mafia. How many seasons did that go on?
2012 to 2015.
Okay.
Jeez.
The podcast boom, I think, is really. I think we are in the middle of the podcast bubble right now, but coming like 4 years ago, when I was like initially trying to find a solution for a camera thing where it was automated, because there's nothing worse than having to just sit here and do it manually. It's like ridiculous. There's so few options for that, it's like, and the ones that are like, this thing was like $2,500. Like, it's not cheap.
I believe it.
And like, but we have a couple other podcasts that record here. Shouts out to the Trav, shouts out Confessional, shouts out Daddy Home. So they help me break even on stuff.
Have you guys ever thought about doing a podcast festival?
Is that a thing, or are you pitching an idea?
I'm not. I'm just throwing it out there, seeing if it catches.
Do we need to edit this?
I'm just seeing I'm just throwing it out there. Will it stick or not? I don't know.
I know there was a podcast festival a couple years ago. It was at like the Wind Up Space.
Okay.
And I just remember it had like a weird like crab as the mascot. But yeah, I don't know.
What happens there?
I don't know what ever happened to it.
Watch people.
Yeah, it was just like podcast after pod. It was like podcast open mic, basically. It was like 10 minutes and then next podcast, 10 minutes, next podcast.
I like the concept. And if you, now we're really digging, now that we're talking to a fellow podcaster, we can really kind of dig into the vault of
Talk about the game.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We had discussed the idea of initially, I don't know if you remember this. This was like episode -4.
Live show.
A live show.
Yeah.
That was kind of the original concept.
But like make a show out of it. We wanted to do like a live late night talk show.
Yeah, with like a band, music. The band being my band.
His band.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. Are you the lead singer?
Yeah, and guitar.
No, he's not good enough to be the lead singer of his band.
Okay.
No,
I'm
he
a
is,
backup
he is,
singer
he
and
is.
rhythm guitar in my own band.
Tampering.
I'm just the booking manager. I don't even play anymore. But so that was kind of the original concept. But the one thing that I would say, because we've done a couple live podcasts.
I think the most successful ones were PAC.
Yes.
And then also the comedy festival one was pretty good. Even though it was kind of short.
Which one was the comedy festival one?
We did it at that like sneaker
the shoe store? Yes. Were those not, well, those were our only two, weren't they?
Well,
but they were also our two most successful.
That's dope, though.
And theoretically our two least successful.
Okay.
I count the least successful one, the Das Beer Hall Awards.
Yeah.
That was kind of okay.
How was that?
Successful.
I saw you guys had that, and I was like, damn, I couldn't make it out that night.
Well, consider yourself
good
lucky.
thing you could.
No, it was we upsell how horrific the night was. If you were there, it was fun. It was kind of fun. It was fun for the wrong reasons.
Gotcha.
But to me, in a lot of ways, that's kind of what, like, it's kind of a right reason. It's like it was like anti-good.
It was like Jenga.
Ooh.
It was like, it wasn't bad. It's just like, how there's like funny, like there's comedy, not comedy, but then there's anti-comedy, where it's like, dude, is this supposed to be funny? Because it's kind of funny, but not for the reasons it should be funny.
Award ceremony.
Yeah, it was just, it wasn't, obviously the bracket itself was super successful, and we were very pleased with that. But then, we went back to our roots, and we were like, well, this is just a way to get this live thing going. We booked the band, Basically, I've been doing this podcast for 6 years as a means to book my band places.
Okay. That's a good hustle. Nothing wrong with that.
Very circuitous route. Just playing at local bars
I love
when
it.
I already do that.
I love it.
But so once we had the winner, they initially had proposed the idea kind of like indirectly, because the bars that made it to the finals were really, really trying. And like, what was different this year than last year when we did it? Because this was the second year in a row we did it. And the first winner was Backyard in Towson, which is the old Green Turtle in Towson. And at that point, we didn't really have like a game plan on how we are gonna do it. Like the first round, I literally drew the bracket on like printer paper and like took a up close shot of it, and then like so it was like I'm assuming that like people saw it and were like, what the fuck is this? And then so like about halfway through, I made it more official and got like the Photoshop involved, and like we were tagging bars from the jump, but we didn't let them know what the hell was going on, you know? So they're just like, why is this random podcast tagging us in this fucking bracket that they drew on a piece of paper?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Man. I love this. I love this.
And so as it got more official, more and more bars, you know, started to actively sharing their stories and stuff. And that's really the key takeaway of anything is if you want people to sell your stuff, make it about them. You know, it's very difficult to convince somebody to help you out. But if you can convince them that helping you out helps them out, and they're like, oh, this is a great idea, we love this. And so then like so we took that, and then we did the Ocean City one a couple months later, and that was way more successful than the first Baltimore one.
Nice.
Other than the fact that all the Ocean City locals hated us.
Oh, yeah.
Half of them hated us and half of them didn't.
Really?
Like I'm saying
Yeah,
half.
if their bar won, they liked us.
Yeah. It was like the bars loved it. Most people loved it. But there were definitely a bunch of Ocean City people, because for this one we did just a 16 thing bracket. The Baltimore bracket is 64, like March Madness,
Wow.
like a lot. It goes on for like 3 weeks. But the Ocean City one was like a week and a half, 2 weeks, just 16 bars. And so, you know, obviously we're getting a bunch of people in the comments section. Who the fuck made this? Obviously some like tourist weekend warrior, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, duh. Because nobody here would fucking do this, you know? It's not my fucking fault. Nobody
this.
in Ocean City did this. And then Fishtails won that. And when we went into this year with it, it was, you know, DM'd all the bars a week ahead of time, told them about it, had the other two brackets, and like had the pictures of the championship thing, and so like everybody in it from the jump.
I love it.
You have 64 bars sharing something all day, every day for 3 weeks. Like people are going to catch on. So by the semifinals, Das Beer Hall was like, they said in their thing, they were like, if we win, we're going to throw a big party. And that's when I saw it, and I was like, no, if you win, we're going to throw a big party.
And my band's going to play.
My band is going to play.
Right.
Oh, you've got this all wrong, Das Beer Hall.
Right. Smart. I love that.
Yeah,
So you guys went to OC and did this down there.
Yeah.
Oh, we tried to do it in Fishtails.
Yeah. Well,
How'd it go?
we went down to Fishtails. We initially
It was
wanted...
4th of July weekend.
Oh.
It just wasn't the right timing.
Right.
We
yeah.
called it Mem Day Madness, Memorial Day Madness, and basically the finals were decided the Friday leading into Memorial Day weekend. So as everybody's driving down in the car, drinking and driving, they're also voting in the polls while driving down Coastal Highway, drinking, speeding,
Using their phones.
using their phone, all of it, you know? The spirit of Ocean City.
I love it.
You know? So when Fishtails won, that was kind of the first time we really tried to be like, yo, let's do this. And they were like, oh, we have like a live music ordinance where we can't have live music after 10 p.m. And I was like, but you can blast a DJ until 2 a.m.
That makes
like,
no sense.
It makes no
Yeah.
sense whatsoever. There's weird laws about it that don't make sense, or maybe they just made that up. But in any case, we still drove down there that weekend and gave them the bracket and gave them the bucket, which are still there. So anybody goes down to Fishtails in Ocean City, they won. When you walk into the main bar, our bracket is right on the wall, and they still have the bronze bucket, which was the prize for that. So with Das Beer Hall, you know, we started kind of in cooperation with them, like what's the party going to be like? And like, of course, with us, we're thinking like, dude, we got to have like signature podcast cocktails,
Right.
Monsterade, fucking, all the stuff
We'll do like comedy. We'll have like some of our reoccurring guests. Like we had Ivan, Darkmark.
And
Okay.
it wasn't until, but the correspondence wasn't, because, with a bar account, there's several different people running the page.
Right.
And so, like, you might send a message to one guy, another guy opens up Instagram, reads it, but he's not even the guy who's dealing with it. So then the message is unread. So the guy you're dealing with never even winds up seeing it. And it's just, I never was able to really get any type of, like, consistent correspondence leading up to it. And when we showed up, they kind of had us, like, in a corner. Like in the middle of an already packed bar where we brought a solid amount of people. Like when I say solid, like maybe 20 people or something like that. Like it wasn't.
That's 20. That's 20. That's probably about $100 a day. The $100 that you guys brought in.
Oh, more than 100. I
Wait,
mean, that's what they all
that's
got
being
water.
generous.
Holy shit!
That's being
You should have
generous.
seen Jimmy's
Dude,
tab
my
that
tab was
night.
180 alone.
They didn't give you guys like a hookup? Like
They did.
Okay.
They
They did.
Jeez.
My tab was
But also-
180 after being hooked up
That was also
Wow.
on
like,
discount night.
Wow.
that was like everyone's tab,
Yeah.
kind of.
So, we brought in people that were spending money.
Gotcha.
And so there was no qualms there. But, there was just most of the people that were there, they were originally going to do it in like the downstairs section.
Right.
Which would have been like our own private room. And part of me is kind of still glad they didn't do that because like, I think that could have been weird in its own way just because like there's a big fucking poppin' party, people chilling and dancing and stuff upstairs. And then it's just us and our 15 friends in the basement like just talking to each other, and it's like, what are we doing down
So
here?
like
Should we
they,
be upstairs
did
maybe?
they turn the music off and let you guys full blast talk?
Yeah, they let us
did.
connect.
That's pretty dope. That's dope,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I like that.
But,
And like,
yeah.
I think looking back on it, it was fine. But definitely in the moment, it was like there's maybe 20% of the bar here that's for the show, and 80% that this is just a Thursday night for them.
Yeah, and you can't even be mad at them for not paying attention because it's like they didn't ask for this. Like, it's one thing if you go to a comedy show and are talking the whole time and being a dick. It's another thing if you just go to a bar on a Thursday happy hour and you're
Yeah,
like,
you go to like your regular bar,
Yeah.
your Thursday night drink. They got the happy hour you like.
yeah. I
And
think
then,
that
we're just up there being like, so congrats on winning the award, guys.
I think that the takeaway is you only in a crowd like that you have a limited amount of attention span,
Right.
And so that's one of the great things about music is that music is something that does not require full attention.
Right.
It's something that you can do in the background. People can choose to pay attention. People can tune in and out and not miss anything. Stand-up comedy requires undivided attention. You need to be watching it. You need people to not be screaming in your ear about other shit. So it's like, I think for future things, we either make an event big enough that it's like anybody there is there to see the show, or we just limit it to just music and the presentation, because people were paying attention during the presentation. And our opening comedian, Ivan Martin, who I believe you know,
Yeah.
he, of course, when we dropped his creds, the Comedy Central, people paid attention for that. And then
Right.
just kind of, but like, all five comedians, shout out Liz Norman, Ivan Martin, Darkmark, Matt Brown, and Ben Smith. They all had killer sets. They were the greatest sets never heard, though. I was dying. They were
That's,
good.
it's interesting because I like what you're saying because I've done probably 6 live shows, and they were just different arrangements. Like I did one for a school, which was cool, their parents. So that was like a different vibe. I did one at Black Swan, which was really dope. But again, people were eating dinner.
Yeah.
So it's an odd thing but it was a really dope vibe. But it was just like, it was interesting.
Yeah.
I've done a couple at a Union, which was a dope vibe, but again, it's just different vibes. I've done that at a couple different restaurants where they had closed it off. And I've done one at Open Works, which was really dope. It was on a Saturday morning, which was kind of tough.
Yeah.
But you had 20 people showed up.
Yeah.
So I've learned and I kind of like what you guys are talking about. I'm glad they put you guys on the first level at Das Beer House because you need to be there. Like the last one I had, Union, I wish I would have done it outside because it was a beautiful day. Nobody wanted to be inside.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be on that porch they have. They a little thing, their little deck they got out.
So you're forcing
yeah.
people to choose between seeing the show or enjoying the beautiful day, and it's just
Here's the thing. I love my show, but I'd rather be outside in 70-degree, 80-degree out
Yeah.
there, having a drink. Now, if I'm outside and I hear it in the background, I'm all about that. And those type of things that now I'm starting to look at going into fall and winter, like how can I take advantage of this weather out here?
Yeah.
How can I do shows outside? But you're at the mercy of the weather gods.
Yeah.
After that, like if
Yeah.
weather's gone, it's not going to happen. Then
yeah,
you move
or
inside.
you can do stuff inside on
Right.
shitty days. But like, I think the main thing, and I think we can all probably see this a little bit as podcasters, is that like this medium does not strike me as something that generally is conducive to a live show. Like when I watch, for instance, like if you watch like the late night talk shows, those like podcasts I would probably argue that evolved out of that, because you have like the Johnny Carson, Jay Leno type shit, but there's a reason why those shows are so structured, and it's here's our guest. You come in, you have a couple quick questions, they have a couple prepared lines up, zing, 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 zing. Okay, next. All right, coming up at the break, folks, we got this fucking random guy with this thing. And it's like you're keeping shit moving versus like even with like, you know, the most popular podcast in the world right now is the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't think that would be just watching Joe Rogan talk to an astronaut for 3 hours and while you sit in the audience. Like, there's not enough participation. There's not enough audience interaction. Like with comedy, there's a constant back and forth where you say something, get a reaction, you're keeping people involved. Music, obviously, the same thing. And a talk show is kind of straying a little bit from it, but at least you're keeping it fast paced and you're not just sitting there just like, yeah, so then I went to Ocean City this weekend and like, man, that was fun. And it's like people are just going to sit in a room and watch you fucking yap about your day. So it's like there's a part of me that like I like the idea of doing something live as a podcast, but I'm not necessarily convinced that the podcast itself is what should be the live expose, unless it literally is like a 10-15 minute thing, but it's like kind of like what we did at PAC, and the other one that we've done so far is a rotating wheel of guests, bring somebody up 3 minutes, hear what they have to say, what they have to do, and blah, blah, blah. But even with that, you got 10-15 minutes before people start losing
And so
focus.
I've done one like kind of like what
You got
you're saying.
one beer.
I did a one that was online during the pandemic. This guy had a studio and was like, hey, I just want to do it online YouTube. And we would literally were like 15, 20 minutes, time to wrap it up, you know, and then next crew came in, crew. And I like that. I think longer than anything, longer than half an hour makes no sense live.
And this is via this, but this is live streaming though.
Live stream YouTube, yes. That was live stream YouTube, which you can come and go and it's always going to be there.
Yeah,
already.
and with that makes more sense too, because what we're producing right now, what you do and what we're doing at this moment is we're producing something that's mainly meant to be consumed by people who are alone,
Right.
in their car, at work, with their headphones, whatever they're doing. But it's a non-social form of entertainment, you know. And I think that you know, I'm interested to experiment with other things, but you know, we've personally yet to have something that I would consider like, oh yeah, this is the format. You know what I mean?
I mean, I look at it like
But the YouTube
this.
thing is definitely.
I've been approached to do a lot of to do a podcast festival in Baltimore. And I've gone like I'm talking to people who've been around. So you kind of you gauge, trying to figure out what makes sense. You know, me and Ivan Martin, we've been like, hey, like, could you do a comedy? Then do a you know,
Yeah.
like there's
Well, I
things
did
that
your
you did the
at
show.
the Motor House, yeah.
And that was
I feel like that went pretty well.
that went really well. It was a
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
sized crowd. People
and that
came
was the
out.
same thing. Like you kept people coming in and out and in
Right.
and out and in and out.
And that was very, very important. I would like, you know, because he said, hey, why don't you do something at the comedy festival? I'm like, it's hard, you know, like you don't want to slow down the momentum, but like, do you have a good enough guest to bring on for people to be like, hey, I'm actually excited about this guest.
Yeah.
And that's the kicker. Like you're going to bring your fans, but I'll tell you, you know who did a podcast festival this year? The Roots.
Oh really?
The Roots did a podcast for their Roots picnic weekend.
Cool.
And they had their own stage, but they had like big names coming on. So they could get away with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like
Yeah, at a certain point, you just want to hear someone speak because they're, you know, famous or whatever. You like
Right.
their music or their movies or whatever.
I guess when you do a live show, it puts things in perspective. Like, I think that honestly, probably the best mentality to go about, even if you're producing a regular podcast, not live, is to understand that there is an audience, ideally.
Right.
And that if you were a person who's not you, or not someone that knows you, or has any reason to give a shit about anything you're saying, you know, would this be interesting or compelling or funny or any of those things? And that's kind of something you learn along the way. So in a way, it's like we still are in the back of our minds understanding that, like, well, hopefully we're not the only 3 people in the world that are going to listen to this conversation. So there is some element of like, keeping it interesting. But the live show makes it way more urgent because it's right in your face. It's like, no, I can't just like fucking all right, see you next week into a mic and then just walk away and be like, that was pretty good. No, because there's an active response there.
Yeah, I had a guy reach out to me who's doing the thing this Saturday. And he's like, you've done live shows. What do you think? Any advice? I'm like, honestly, like, you are going to be talking to the person they want to hear. So pretty much let that person talk.
Yeah.
Like, just like take the ego pride away and just say, listen, plug your show. Every time you got a chance, tell them take your cell phones out or have like little scanners or wherever they're going to be at so you can scan it real quick.
Yeah.
And just do that because they're not there for you.
Yeah.
They're
I'm
there.
sitting there telling George Clooney about my vacation last week.
Right.
Dude,
They don't want to hear about that. They don't hear about that. So, again, like I love talking to podcasters who understand it. We learn. And I like what you guys said with the bubble. Like, I think that a lot of people, it got crazy in the pandemic. Everybody had a show. Like people's grandmothers had a damn show. Like, it was like to the point where it was like the consumer like had so many options. But then after the pandemic, now people have like disappeared again.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was like the cool thing to do, I mean, I could tell you, I only probably really watch 5 YouTube podcasts on a rotation.
Yeah.
And like only one I really watch is Drink Champs and The Pivot because I like a little bit I watch Joe Rogan if it's on, but I'll watch like Drink Champs because I'm like, damn, there's some cool hip hop heads on here. Like, I kind of want to hear what they're talking about.
They get fucking wasted.
And they get wasted,
Start spilling secrets.
Right. And like, here's the crazy part, fellas. I wish I could have a Drink Champs. Like, that's how, in my mind, like, if I wish I could do a show like that. Instead of doing what I do now.
Step 1 right here, baby.
I'm good. I'm good tonight, man. I'm good tonight. I'm just gonna chill. But like, thank you though.
We're gonna chump over here.
Next time we'll do it up.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Hell
promise you. I'll bring in some tequila or some one of these people who I
love it, man. I got pick your poison over there, whatever you want.
I see the old base.
But I'm glad you brought up the whole COVID thing too. The transition. Now that I'm thinking about it, COVID really was in terms of artists, whether you were live performers to be specific, it was like the meteor that killed the dinosaurs kind of, but for artistry. Cause like so many people that were doing shit before it stopped and so many people that weren't doing shit before it started. And it was like this weird phase where like, I don't know if it was necessarily the availability of how many things there were to be consumed, because I would argue that podcasts were already getting too saturated 2019, 2018, stuff like that too. It's just like when I think about like the future of this show, to be exact, like exclusive.
Another thunderstorm is going to take out all the equipment.
I wonder if there would have to be some type of format. I'm going to use the word formatic because I'm 3 Coronas in and I'm feeling like I'm allowed to invent words.
All good. It's all good.
Check.
Yep, you're good.
We're good.
We're good.
You're loud and clear.
Hell yeah. I feel like maybe some type of format shift, subtle format shift might be necessary, possibly. And I don't know what that would be. I'm still trying to envision, like, obviously you can't change up the vibe. You can't change the show. No. But some way to, like, package it in a way that's more consumer friendly to someone who doesn't have any investment in devoting their time in the first place, which is why I've found that so many podcasts that have like a very specific niche generally take off more. And that those podcasts might be objectively not as good as your podcast or something like that. But because they can be like, oh yeah, we're this podcast based in Lancaster and we just talk about different chairs we like. And there's a million people in the world that are like, dude, I fucking love chairs.
You're right.
I'm sitting in a chair right now. Tell me more.
I love it. You guys are. I'm thinking about it more and more, and you're exactly right. You have to pivot. Like I always tell people, you can only talk about certain shit for so long. And people were like, oh, all they're doing is talking about that. It's like, all right, how do I reinvent myself each time. Again, when I started, I didn't think I was talking about Baltimore. I wasn't even thinking about doing anything about Baltimore. And people were like, come on, you got to do a show. And I was like, it's not what I wanted to start off with.
Yeah.
But then you're like, all right, more people want to be on. Okay. I didn't fight it. You know what I mean? Like, you know how some people are like, this is my podcast. I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. Can I swear in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you can't.
I don't know. You know, guys.
Well, you can swear, you may not.
But, you know, like someone's like, I've talked to so many podcasts. This is my fucking show. I'm going to do it because I didn't like when I listened to radio, and this is the way I want to do it. And it's interesting now when I find, like, this is in 2020. A lot of them I don't see anymore doing podcasts. And I think it's that wave where, like, we outside again. As they say, we outside. So guess what? We outside. We don't want to take time to come back here and talk.
Yeah.
And now it's like, all right, you see who the people who enjoy it. Like, kind of like you enjoy it
Yeah.
or you don't enjoy it. I thrive because I love it. I love talking with people and having these conversations like with you guys. And like, I'm thinking like, shit, we could do a cool thing somewhere live. I'm joking live. But you know what I mean? But like literally have drinks, talk shit, and have a fun time. And I think people want that. People want to have a good time. People want to get out and try different unique things, you know? Like you got your band, you know, people want to hear music. People want to hear podcasts. I think we have the voices. You have the audiences.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out how to, like you said, you got to figure out what makes sense. What makes it, like in the beginning, I never went on shows because I was like, I don't want to go on by your show. Like, I don't want to, you know? But now I'm like opening up a little bit more to it because I'm learning, like you kind of said, all right, well, okay, you saw him on, damn, what do you got to talk about now, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciate you guys having me on, really. That's one of the two, first and foremost, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
No worries, dude.
Because when I hit you up, you were like, yo, I'm in like New York, my band's in Miami and shit. I'm like, damn. Yo, what, y'all on tour? What the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
The fuck, you know? But I appreciate you brothers for like taking time out and just having me on.
Absolutely,
Really,
dude.
Yeah, no worries.
Are you you're originally from Baltimore, correct?
yeah, I'm originally from Baltimore. I lived here when I was young, moved away in grade school. Went to school, grew up in Randallstown. Went to a Catholic school in Pikesville. And then we left, moved to Youngstown, Ohio. From Youngstown, Ohio, we moved to Dallas, Texas. And I was not in the military.
Okay.
But my dad was in the military, and we weren't running from the feds. All right. So
All
we got to
right.
clear all those things
Okay.
up.
All right.
But just job opportunities. My dad was like, you know, let's find, there's more money, let's go. I mean, he was kind of like doing what millennials do now. Not from job to job. But, you know, so and it was fortunate enough to learn so many different, the South, living in Dallas, living in New York. You know, you hear it, like, you learn the difference of all everybody.
So you're born in Baltimore, you move around, you're back in Baltimore for middle school.
No, I never came back.
Oh, you never came back. So you
not-
went to Catholic school in Pikesville.
Yep. And then I went to school in Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay.
Dallas,
Got
Texas.
Got you.
And then I moved upstate New York, Syracuse. And then I ended up going to college there.
I was about to say, you have a very neutral accent.
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people like, say two. I'm like, two. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
You just got radio voice, natural radio voice.
Yeah,
oh, man.
you do.
I'm just chilling. I'm honestly, man, this is a vibe because you know what? I'm relaxed because I don't have to ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting letting you guys talk, you know, and just, and it's like a vibe. This is a natural conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at the studio like, damn. I keep on looking at cameras like, I need this shit. Like, Paul, you glad you didn't come tonight because, bro, I'm doing some homework right now. I had to get rid of my camera guy. But
so I thought of this earlier. I forgot to ask. This is going to be a stupid question probably, but why no Pix After Dark?
Not a stupid question. So no Pix After Dark. There was a party that we used to do. It was after college. So my senior year of college. Remember, iPhones aren't out yet. I mean, so let me tell you my age. So
No Facebook yet?
No, I'm way before that. So I graduated from college. I went to college 99 to 03. Carmelo's senior year at Syracuse University. So 03.
Oh, shit.
There was no iPhone. There was nothing yet. So you got to think about it. There was no pictures, nothing like that. You really didn't. Man, there's some shit I did. I'm glad I didn't know damn thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's some wild ass shit. So, I mean, we had like the camera where you like, you know, you take it and then take it to like Dwayne Reed or CVS afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
But what happened was we had this party that was so out of control my senior year. We had 2 hot tubs, half naked people.
Let's go.
people's like I found there was a girl's panties in my room that wasn't my girlfriend's panties. It was a lot of wild shit like that. But, like people were like, "Oh, I can't go in that room." Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and like
geez.
imagine having cameras during that time.
Yeah.
Like that's weird, you know? So we were like, "Look, no pics. We can't have no pictures after dark. Let's just chill." So then what happened the next year? The following year, we all graduated, lived in Manhattan. I lived in Hoboken because I was poor. I couldn't afford that. So we went out, partied. Next thing I know, my man's making out with some chick. But you know how you get to snap the cameras, but you don't know.
the flash.
Yeah, people just taking photos, but you don't know. You don't know that shit. You don't know if that's for here or there.
Yeah.
Again, there's no really iPhone phones. Like you really
Yeah,
don't.
no one's ever gonna see it.
Great. So next morning we all wake up, and the one girl's like, "Let's go to 1 hour Dwayne Reed." So she goes to Dwayne Reed, gets a 1 hour photo joint. And we're all come back. We're all like just banged up, and they're passing photos around. And my boy is making out with this chick on one of the photos. Luckily, his lady wasn't there, but we're like, definitely no pics after dark. So when people will say like, I really don't take pictures after dark, but if I do, it's a group setting.
Yeah.
You'll never see me like one-on-one, like in a
no
weird
selfies in the mirror.
no selfies. You don't know, like, and like, I don't know if you guys have this issue too, or you guys even do it. I don't even post shit on social media until like a day later, because I've had a cycle stalker incident where I posted a picture and I was at a restaurant and literally like this chick showed up like a half an hour later. I was like, "Hey, I'm in the neighborhood." I'm like, "Yo, you live in Cockeysville. How are you in Canton?
Jeez.
Like, how are you in Canton and Mama's in a half shell?" Like that's
Holy
so that's why like I don't. This is way back, and I'm like, I never post anything that moment. Like it won't. I don't even care. Like it'll be cool. We can show it right. Nah. It's not a vibe anymore.
It'll be just as cool tomorrow.
It'll be It's gonna be the same damn likes. You know. It's funny. I listened to Kanye. He was like, I don't know if you guys seen it. He was like, "Your girl is addicted to Facebook. Facebook got your girl," and it's a quote. And I'm like, I look at how many people are addicted to social media and shit. Like, I just went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No,
Nah,
you're
it's all
absolutely
good.
right.
But like, I hate it. Like this guy posted today.
I'm just like, damn, I wish I had a stalker.
Yeah, it was
Not
weird.
really,
It
but
was, no, you don't. No,
I don't wish I had one, but I know Jimmy has had a stalker before, so I just feel
Ooh.
left out right now.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
That shit is weird. Like,
Sounds great,
no, it's weird. It's weird
but
shit.
it's not.
It's a weird shit, as you know. It's like a
Doesn't
weird
live
thing.
up to the hype.
Yeah.
No, not when you. So imagine you hanging out, you having a drink, having oysters and shit, and all of a sudden, hey, and you're like,
The fuck?
fuck, how the hell did you know I was down? Oh, I took that fucking dumbass Facebook photo.
Yeah.
And then I can be honest, I was all social media for 5 years until I did my podcast. Because I was like, yeah, I don't need nobody know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, I think as a grown men, I think that unless you really have like something that you're promoting, like a podcast or
Right.
something like that, like that's really the only thing I use social media for anymore. Like I tweet stupid shit, but like the only people that follow me on Twitter are like people that I know really, and then the people
Right.
that I unfollowed years back, and they don't give a shit.
What's your social media choice for you guys?
Probably Instagram.
Yeah, I would say I primarily browse Instagram. That's just a good like zone out. Just
You don't have to read for the most part, unless
yeah,
it's like a
right.
meme page.
Twitter's a good kind of just like same type of deal. If I want to get pissed off, I'll go on Twitter.
Isn't it a weird place, you think?
Is Twitter in a weird
Yeah,
place?
isn't it like a weird, like to me, I have Twitter and I'm like, I hate this place. Like I turned it on and I look at like people complaining. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. Like that's how I feel about Twitter.
It's an instant dose of like negativity that like we're almost addicted to. That like it like as soon as I pop it on, I'm 2 tweets away from like wanting to get in an argument with somebody, and it's like this is just an unnecessary amount of like conflict that like I know it's been touched on before, but like now that we're talking about social media, it's like I don't think that we were meant to like I still think this. I don't think we were meant to know, because obviously the main thing people are going to get in arguments about online is politics and shit like that.
Right.
But the reality is, you know, probably the same for you, you know, having been in college pre-social media taking off. Like, I don't think that you're supposed to know people's inner thoughts unless they share them with you personally. Like if you're talking to somebody, generally the concept of like, well, what do you think about this thing or that thing? Like for kind of just acquaintances or like people that you kind of know in passing, coworkers, stuff like that. Like you know them in context of how they fit into your life. Like we work together, we have funny inside jokes at this job, you know, or like, oh, this guy does it. It's like you're not supposed to know his every thought. And now you find yourself mad at people, not just people that you kind of know, because that's one thing. But now we're pissed off at people that we don't even know that you would never hear their fucking opinion otherwise, nor maybe should anybody. And it's like, so we just have this like new level of like stress that you grew up without. And I think that, you know, we're not too much younger than you. If you graduated college in 03. Okay, so we would have been class of 2014 from college. We graduated high school in 2010. So we're a
decade.
Yeah, decade, like 11 years younger. So with my generation, it's weird because we grew up basically like MySpace kind of came out and was peaking when we were in middle school.
That was my shit.
And then Facebook took off when I was like 15. So like, but the thing is that when that was going on, social media was so different because nobody, like, it really was like you would just say the most ridiculous shit. Just the climate at the time was not as tight, like, and nobody really cared if you said something stupid on Facebook because at that time we hadn't
we also
yet
had just smaller, undeveloped brains.
Well, that's true too, but I that is true too. I mean, like, there's definitely things that, like, you know, were stupid that maybe, you know, even at that time, but we were like 14 and didn't get it.
But no, like, everyone from our graduating class, like, you were talking about no college pictures of drinking or anything. Like, everyone, when they graduated college, changed their last name to their middle name on Facebook. Just so that, like, when they went looking for a job, their companies couldn't see them, like, doing a fucking keg stand.
Yeah,
or, like,
yeah,
like that.
But we came up in a time where social media, like the internet and real life, had not yet merged.
Yeah.
And now we exist in a time where the internet and real life are basically synonymous, and almost for kids that are young kids now, the internet is almost more real life. Because they're existing in a place where it's like, yeah, you might see your friends at school, but also for the past 2 years, that hasn't even been true. So now you just exist like online is reality. And it's like, you know, I go back through, I was going, every time I get, like, come home from the bars and I'm drunk, I'll like pop on, I'll like at some point I'll run across like my old videos on YouTube that I made, like private videos and stuff that I've since taken down from YouTube, and like just watch them and I'm thinking like, geez, like, okay, like these are kind of like cringe, like just songs and shit like that. Nothing crazy, but just like stuff that I would be embarrassed to show somebody now, like how corny it was and stuff like that. But like, you know, you have these kids who are like in the same way that like when we were in college posting pictures of drinking and shit, and then we graduate college and we're like, oh shit, now I want to get hired. We got to, you know, bury the evidence. Now your entire life, you know, is documented online, and it's like you don't really have a chance to like grow. Like, you know how you have like certain memories in your mind that like you'll think about, like you like get embarrassed like in the moment at something that happened like 20 years ago or something stupid like that. But now that thing exists, like it's still there for people to see. And like I think that, like, you know, just the general concept of having, you know, your life up there for everyone to see is something that really is new. And I don't think it's kind of like what is supposed to be happening here.
No, like I look at it like this, fellas, like, and I don't know if this is weird, this happens to you guys. People have my Instagram account. They have so I have a no pics social Instagram. I have a private Instagram also that just like private, like the stuff like I talk about. And then it's always weird when people follow you on the No Pix After Dark podcast on Instagram and on Facebook. But then they want to follow your real Aaron Facebook account. And I'm like, yo, you see my no pics. You see my Facebook no pics. That's as far as we're going to go. Like, yo, like it's all good. I'm sure you. What else are you trying to dig for to find more information out?
I'm glad I didn't. I was about to follow you straight up.
No, you know what? And you know what? I keep people on just, and I had somebody ask me, Aaron, and that's kind of cheesy. I looked at them, I can't believe they said, they're like, I wanted to be your Facebook friend. You haven't accepted me. I'm like, you see me on no pics. It is what it is. So it's kind of weird that we are. Do you guys ever get that? People try to hit you up on your.
I think that is something that maybe, and I think it obviously does vary person to person.
Right.
But I think a lot of this could just be, was that a sneeze or a cough? I gotta know. I'm not gonna bless you then, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
I'm listening to fucking Stairway to Heaven backwards right now, dude.
What the fuck was I about to say? Something about
No, it's like a I think people call it like parasocial relationships. So like it's a one-sided relationship. So like this person in their mind thinks they know you just because they've listened to you so much, and they are like, oh yeah, he's my friend, but you don't know them.
No,
You don't know a single thing about that person.
no.
I think that people, I guess, that came up before, especially with you coming up a decade before that stuff took off, it's like you are much more able to, are able to compartmentalize, this is my show, this is me. You can consume my show and you can be as invested in my show as you want, but, as far as my personal life, it's like what you were talking about with the kids and stuff, it's like you have very clear barriers.
Right away.
On where those things line up.
Exactly.
Whereas, even for me at least, and I would imagine for a lot of our friends, just people of my generation, my age, I, for a long time, kind of just viewed it as this one all-encompassing thing. So I would post stupid memes on my band account or the podcast account. And then it took me a while to learn that you kind of have to separate, yourself from the business in a certain way. Like when it comes to the band, for instance, it's everything that we post in the band thing is going to be band related, music related, and something that appeals to people that are fans of the band, that you don't want to alienate people in that way, which is why I enjoy Twitter so much, because that's just me. If you follow me on Twitter, that's your own fucking fault, but as far as with the Instagram, it is kind of also different, because if you're a person who's trying to enter the public sphere, like yourself and us and things like that, sometimes you kind of do have to give up a little more than you like for me, I find it weird when people actually if somebody says if I posted I'm coming out to a thing and somebody messaged me and is like, yo, we're going to come out to that. There's a part of me that's like, really? Why? And then I realized, I'm like, wait, this is the whole point, right?
Right.
You're kind of trying to have people that give a shit about what you do, but because of the mindset that I'm in, at least, it's I'm like, why the fuck do you care about what I'm doing? It's like you kind of have to open yourself up to the concept of even with I've always thought wow, what if the band does get bigger and stuff, and then more and more people are coming out. If we're still doing bar shows like this, people are coming out, and it's now I got to be friends with everybody. I got to be constantly talking to this person. I got to make sure that this person doesn't feel slighted. If you took time out of your night to come see me, now I'm not just gonna fucking play on stage and fucking ignore you on my break. I feel obligated to come and talk to you, and it sounds like a dickish thing to say, but it's not, because I don't mind that. Not that I have to deal with it right now, but it's more of just a concept of it's oh shit. It's you want something, but then when it starts to happen, you're like, whoa, this is not how I expected it to be or what I thought it would be. And then you start to understand why you go to see a touring comedian and they're like, oh, you didn't even come out of the green room and talk. It's yeah, because it's dude, he's done his, I used to look at it as what a fucking dick. He didn't even, he only gave people 30 minutes. All these people took time. It's as a person, you have to delineate between your job, your brand, and yourself. Now, people take that too far where their brand, I don't really necessarily have respect for people whose brand isn't more or less a reflection or an extension of themselves, because then you're inauthentic.
Right.
You know, I never liked, there's a common trope that we've had artists on here in the past. They'll come and be like, yo, when I'm on stage, man, I'm like a totally different person. I'm like, why?
Yeah, that's weird.
That's not a good thing in my opinion. It's like, that means you're not being real. That means you're playing a character, or maybe that's the real you, and then in real life you're playing a character. But either way, one of you is lying. Either the stage guy's lying or the regular guy's lying.
Who am I talking to?
Huh?
I was like, who am I talking to?
Yeah, exactly. It brings, like, I want to believe, as most people do, that the person that you are a fan of, whether it's a musician or a comedian or a podcast or whatever, actor or whatever, actor's a little bit different because their whole thing is being someone else, which is why, whatever. But like, you kind of want to believe that they are that person in real life. And that's why they say never meet your heroes, because a lot of times you meet that person, you're like, oh, you're not that guy.
I've had that happen to me. I've had that, not a hero, but where I've interviewed somebody and I was like, oh, this is going to be so dope. And then when I interviewed him, I was like, damn, like it was disappointing. Like, it was like great content, but it was kind of like, oh. It was like an oh moment. Like, and that when that happened to me, I was kind of like, you know what? So it was funny. Like, people are like, do you get pumped up for, I did an interview on Monday and the person was like, do you get excited? Are you pumped? I'm like, I'm just even keel.
Yeah.
I go into it. I'll have fun. I'll enjoy myself. It was great. Cool. I'll reflect a couple of days later. I'm like, damn, that was pretty dope. But I'm not like, oh my God, like, I don't have those moments anymore, Like,
yeah.
it's kind of like, hey, it's cool. Let's just talk. Like, let's talk. I'm going to look at you as you.
And that's part of, I don't want to say maturity, because I think that there's people that are plenty mature, but it's more of a familiarity, whatever, with kind of after you meet a certain amount of quote unquote successful people, you realize that they really are just like anyone else with their own flaws. And like, you'll meet a stand-up comedian who's like not that funny to talk to, and you're like, how are you not like funny? I don't get it. It's like,
it's weird. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I look around and people are like, oh my God, this is the best. Oh my God, like, I call some podcasters like, oh my God, I'm fangirling or fanboying, talking. So I'm like, what are we doing right now? Like,
yeah,
like, I don't understand that, right? Like, and kind of like what you guys said, but like, when I did a live, my second live show was, third live show was at Union. And the way I did it was the people who really, really rocked with me, I invited them. So, and they invited their friends. So it was like over like 80 to 90 people there.
Nice.
And like you guys said, I'm going to walk around. I shook everybody's hand. I was like, I'm going to get COVID tonight, but didn't get it though. But you know what I mean? Like, I just shook everybody's hand and said, thank you for coming out. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for taking your time. And people were like, you didn't have to. I'm like, nah, because you came out and you took time out your evening. You brought your kids. You said you had to go. You still showed up. And I always remember things like that. But it's interesting that you say when the other part of it is your brand, and it's like, I'm tired.
yeah.
You're like, I'm tired. Like, I get it. You're like, oh, you want to go and do, like, I did a 2-day festival. After the second day, I was like, I'm tired. Like,
yeah,
it was great to meet so many people, but I'm like, how do these people do it all the time? And now I understand. I don't feel like give another instance. Like, we had the issue with Supreme Court, and a lot of my women listeners were like, you got to post something on about that. And I'm like, so here's the thing. There's two things with this. What I personally feel, and then what does the brand feel? Does the brand just stay out of that, or does the brand get jumped into something where do you want to answer more questions than you don't need to?
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to a friend and they were like, you have a brand. Remember, you can't just jump out. You can, but understand your brand is your brand.
Yeah.
That's all you have.
Yeah.
And if you pick a side, even though it could be the 110% right side, it could affect your brand.
Yeah, of course, because there's always going to be... Now, the flip side of this coin is that, on the other hand, in order to have anything that's truly meaningful, you have to kind of be real to a certain level.
Right.
Like you can't just like that's another pet peeve of mine when you listen to a podcast that's strictly a comedy podcast and like the second they even kind of like hint at like a serious subject, they kind of like shy away from it. Like
But the PC police comes for you.
yeah, well, that, but also it's like they're like obviously the PC thing too, more of on a cultural standpoint. But it's like even with them, it's like they don't want to like kind of like wade into those waters just in general because they might be afraid that like, oh well, maybe half of our fan base isn't going to like our take on this, so let's just not address it. And it's like, well, at that point, you know, the only thing worth listening to is something that's going to kind of like introduce an idea of any point. You know, if at a certain point you're so cautious about your brand that you're like, well, let's just not take a stance on anything ever, and then you think, well, then why would anybody listen to this? Like clearly at a certain point, like I think it really comes down to a good mix of authenticity and openness,
Right.
because you kind of have to be in a position where you can go like, okay, like I'm willing to talk about this, I'm willing to hear the opposite perspective of that, as opposed to just shying away completely. And I think when somebody introduces an idea in that context, in the context of a open discussion type of thing, then it's like, well, at that point, if you don't fuck with what we're saying or anything like that, then it's like, I can't help you.
Right.
You know, because it's like, I can't just, you know, you can't just sit in front of a microphone and do a podcast but never say anything.
Right.
You know, you might as well just be a fucking weatherman at that point.
Right.
You know?
No, I know. I agree with you on that. Like, and you know, you say things, you slide things in episodes where people kind of get what your vibe is, and you know, you can say things without saying it, and say it like in a different way. For like, I mean, there's so many examples out there where like that goes on in the world every day. We have bullshit every day that happens in this world. You know, I always tell people I had heart like I had a heart attack every day when I was watching like Donald Trump on TV. Like people, you should know where I stand when I say that.
Yes.
Like, and that's where people like, I tell people like, I say things of those natures where you're like, I know what he's saying. He's telling you, you just got to use your own brain to figure out what he's meaning. And I look at it like, kind of like you said, it's like a lot of things people don't stand up for, and they stay in the sidelines. And it's like, all right, you can stay in the sidelines for how long? How long can you ignore what's going on? Like, people want to talk about the Squeegee Boys in Baltimore City. And again, I'm not too educated on that subject. And I'll be the first one to tell anybody that. Like, well, talk about it. I'm like, well, I need to understand it more to understand, for me to have a show on that.
Yeah.
And I need to have somebody. So I recently had a guy on who was a former Squeegee Boy. That, to me, that helped me out understand a little bit more about the process.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
And to me, that's me showing he is talking a little bit about that subject. I may not have a whole show on it, but I'm giving you, if you listen to the episodes, you know I've already talked about
Yes.
it. So when people try to say, you ever talk about it? No, you didn't. You didn't listen to episode 195. It was there.
Yeah.
You just didn't listen to it.
Yeah. And that's one of the oldest school, like that's what they call the Socratic method. You know, I'm part Greek, so I got to know this shit.
Gotcha.
Socrates. And he was all
philosophies.
about just, you know, basically asking questions to get to the answer. I know that's become a cliche at this point, but it's like, it's about understanding that you don't actually know anything.
Right.
But knowing the right questions to ask so that the person who does maybe know more about that subject can, but that's, and again, going back to the Rogan thing, it's like, that's what kind of, in my opinion, made Joe Rogan stand out among so many podcasts, is that, you know, the common criticism of him is like, oh, he's not like super smart. He's not like this, that, the other thing. He's just like, you know, just kind of like a meathead type of dude. But it's like, but his job isn't to lecture people on an opinion. Like that was kind of the whole thing. Like during, I guess it was earlier this year, honestly, the death throes of COVID, where COVID was still a big deal before we forgot about it.
Right.
You know, in the past couple months,
Just disappeared also.
just all of a sudden out of nowhere it was. But if people can remember, there was a thing called COVID, and it really was a big deal, and all the way up until like February, March of this year. And at the time, there was this whole push to get Rogan off Spotify, and these celebrities were doing all these things, like pulling their music off Spotify. And the criticism was him was like, he's spreading disinformation. And I remember being like, no. the comparison here is people that probably haven't actually watched the podcast.
Right.
Which is, most people having an opinion don't actually, have taken the time to actually formulate a real opinion. It's like, this isn't a guy like Alex Jones, which you can think one way or the other about Alex Jones, but at the end of the day, Alex Jones is the type of guy that is talking and yelling into a microphone what his thoughts are. That's not Rogan, though, because what Rogan did is bring on different people that express different views, and then he facilitated the conversation and asked the questions necessary. At that point, it's like, you're not mad about Joe Rogan spreading disinformation. I guess, you could say he's spreading but it's not like his opinion necessarily. Like, he has his thoughts, but at the end of the day, if he has, the whole thing was about like the vaccine disinformation or whatever, and like he has one doctor on one week that says one thing, he has another doctor on the next week that says another thing, and it's like, in my opinion, that's a good podcast. Like, it's a good podcast when you have different people who are in a certain field that you can then go, okay, what do you have to say about it, expert? Okay, now we have this expert. Like, that, isn't that kind of the whole point?
Well, I always tell you guys are the comedians. The comedians can tell you this. I remember with the Joe Rogan controversy, because he came out and said the N-word and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember Ashley Larry, I can't remember his real name, though.
Donnell Rawlings.
Yeah, he came out.
Donnell Rawlings.
He was like, he's like, I fuck with Joe Rogan. That's my dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude helped me out. Dude helped me out behind the scenes and did this and this. Here's my thing. Mm-hmm. Half these people have never listened to Joe Rogan in their lives. So you arguing about something that you don't listen to.
Yeah.
So at this point, you have no argument to me at all. If you've not listened to more than 2 or 3 episodes of him, then don't even argue. You're just hearing what you're hopping on the media train.
Yeah.
That's all you're hopping on. And, I look at people and I'm like, do people have their own train of thought and brains anymore? I wonder that. I ask that question to myself a lot. Do you think for yourself, or are you just hopping on the gravy train? Because when I hear something, I'm like, all right, let me think about that for a little bit. And let me eat that. Let me digest that. And then does that shit really make sense? Like the hysteria. Do I really know the facts behind it? Do I really know what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh well, Aaron, he's bad. Okay, was I there?
Yeah.
Was I there? It's. There's something out right now that everybody's all hysteria about sports.
Uh-huh.
And I don't talk about it because I wasn't there.
Well,
I wasn't in the room when all this was happening. You know what? People have some sick perversions in this world, but I wasn't there though.
By the way, I'm starting to get little hints of your Baltimore accent as we progress.
Where's it coming? Where's it coming?
The room and
room.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to catch glimpses of it.
As
we're loosen up a little bit.
Once I loosen up a little bit.
Yeah. It comes out.
That means that we end the show pretty soon then.
But no, even circling back to the original concept
Right.
is that the culture that and the environment that we're in right now, it allows people to be affected by things that don't affect them.
Right.
Like, if you think about what the world was like 100 years ago, nobody in Maryland gave a fuck about what was going on in Mississippi.
Right.
Unless it was a civil war, which that happened, but and that's probably why it happened, because nobody gave a fuck what was going on until it knocked on their front doorstep. If you're in Maryland, if you're living in Baltimore City, the things that directly affect you is what's happening in Baltimore City, what's happening outside my doorstep. Obviously, on a national level and on a global level, things affect you, but you know what I'm saying though? It's like you get caught up in all these things where it's like now people feel this obligation to have an opinion about something that really they don't need to have an opinion on. Like, if you don't listen to Joe Rogan, you don't need to have an opinion on Joe Rogan.
Zero.
It's like me having an opinion on some guy who works at Arby's in Arkansas. Why would I have an opinion about that guy? Unless somebody told me I have to have this guy sucks. And I'm like, I guess he sucks. Apparently he sucks. I was told he sucks. I never met the guy.
Right.
But I'm told he sucks. It's like now our mind is just full of all these thoughts and opinions that only about 10% of which we actually have any level of actual experience, firsthand knowledge of it in the first place. And then that's what makes it easier to manipulate people, is because you can't lie to somebody about what's going on right in front of their face. You can't tell somebody,
Well,
okay.
Well, we got some people. Well, go ahead. I'll let you go.
No. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. I see
You
what
knew
you
where I
mean.
was going. I was like, wow.
Let me say this. It's harder.
Okay.
It's harder to tell someone, let's use this as an example. If you live in a neighborhood,
Right.
it's pretty, and they're seeing that neighborhood every day, it would be very difficult for somebody to come in there and tell that person whether or not it's a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood or what goes on, because they're like, no, I see this every day.
Right.
But if you live in this neighborhood and somebody tells you that that neighborhood's a bad neighborhood, you might go, yeah, I guess it's a bad neighborhood.
I guess so.
You can get people to agree with you on things easier the less they know about it. And so
True.
now you have all these people with all these thoughts that aren't really their thoughts. You know, and then they also walk around, you know, because they might exist in one bubble, not even understanding, like they've only ever talked to other people that have those same thoughts. And then it becomes this kind of like division where it's like, we don't even, you know, what's supposed to happen. This is how I think it's supposed to happen. You're supposed to be friends with the person, right? Coworkers, blah, 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 blah. And then one day, a couple weeks in, you work up the courage. Yo, you want to get a couple drinks after work? Meet up, go to the bar, blah, blah, blah. You have a couple beers. You guys been friends for a while, dude. You're cool. You already know both of each other are cool, is cool. Then conversation comes up. Maybe you disagree about it. Maybe this guy thinks one thing, the other guy thinks another thing. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? You really think blah, blah, blah? But you're still coming at it from the base point that you both like each other as people. And you both know that each other is a good person. That makes a disagreement a mature and honest and reasonable disagreement, because you can attack a person's ideas without necessarily thinking that that is a mark on their character. Versus now we have people that we're getting into arguments with people that we don't have that base point with, though. You know what I mean? Like, we're not coming from it from the base point. It's like, this person's a good person. He just doesn't think the same as me. We're coming at it from like, I don't fucking know that guy, but he thinks this, and fuck that guy. You know what I'm saying?
You got deep.
You know what I'm saying, though?
You got deep on that.
Yeah.
You got deep on that. That Corona talking.
Corona Light, dude. Just imagine how profound that would have been if I was drinking Corona Extra.
Corona heavy.
Corona heavy.
Corona heavy.
Wow.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
That's no lime too.
That's no lime, too.
Ooh,
Not even fucking cutting this shit.
Ooh, nah. I mean, where do you guys see your podcast going like this year, like next year? What do you do you guys see you guys doing more guests, more like pop-ups? I mean, what do you guys see you guys doing? I mean, you have a successful bar thing going on. I mean, you can ride that motherfucker till the wheels fall off.
Oh, we will.
And now you should. Mm-hmm. So like, what do you guys see yourselves doing? Like me with the pod?
I'll let you take that, Eric. I'm interested to hear.
I think we try to just keep staying consistent. Maybe, I don't know, like Jimmy was talking earlier, like not necessarily pivot, but somehow just like have a structure.
Switch up the game a little bit.
Game a little bit. Maybe I noticed on your podcast you kind of have like an intro. I feel like maybe we need an intro for the podcast.
An intro would be nice. You know, we tried backwards stairway to heaven today.
Music. You have music though. You're a
music.
You're a musician though.
Yeah. Well, no, the intro thing we could make happen, but at the same time, I there is a part of me that I'm like, I've always kind of liked the, and it's not like it's a unique thing, but I've always kind of liked that, like, every intro is like when that opening song, sometimes it's not even a song. Sometimes it just right into the middle of a conversation. And I've always kind of liked that vibe of like, you're just popping in. Like, it's like, I kind of wanted it to feel like you just walked into the studio and we were talking, like, you know, and then with the music, it kind of sets the tone. And oftentimes the whole first conversation is about the song, which kind of makes it easier to transition. And like, an intro would be cool, but I almost feel like, I really kind of dig the whole just the different thing there. Now, granted, half of our fucking videos get demonetized, but also granted because of the music,
because they flag it right away.
But also,
Instantaneous.
plot twist: we're not making any fucking money anyway. So
yeah,
I've demonetized myself.
Go for it, YouTube.
This podcast is self-demonetized. I don't need fucking YouTube's help.
16 people listened to Stairway to Heaven for free.
Hey, it's all good though. It says 60 people who loved it though. No, it's always interesting just to vibe with different podcasters and get to what your thoughts are and things. And I've really taken away a lot of good, cool things from this experience. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking at these damn cameras again. Like, yo, I need this because that's the next level of don't need a videographer, you know. And it's a shout out to my videographer. He's an amazing person, does amazing work. But it's like maybe you can't make it today. How do I figure this out?
Yeah.
How do I evolve and I can be self-sufficient?
The fewer people you can depend on, I've always thought is the better. And when I say depend on, I kind of mean it like rely on. Like, that was one of the hardest things about being in a band is that like you kind of need it's like having 3 girlfriends in a way where it's like you kind of all have to be on the same page at a certain point of like, what is our goal here? Because if one guy in the band, let's say, has his sights on something over here, but the other guys are just like, I just kind of like jamming. It's like, well, at a certain point, then the person who wants to do more is going to feel held back because they're like, yo, we got this fucking gig coming up. And they're like, I don't know, dude. Like, I was kind of going to go on like the boat that weekend. And it's like, come on, dude. I thought we were like, what are we trying to do here? So it's like the fewer people you can have involved in your operation, the better. Not saying that you can necessarily do it yourself, because I don't think that's the case either.
No.
But it's just about finding people that are all on the same page. You don't want to be in a position where your ability to do a podcast is dependent on someone else's availability all the time and everything like that. It has to be like, as long as both people are on the same page, like, yo, this is important, and then you make it work. You know what I mean?
That's real talk. That's real. I mean, again, I've learned a lot just in this whole 3 or 4 years. People do things differently. Like I now do a listserv. I email people and send out. What is it? Once a monthly. What do they call them?
Like a newsletter.
Newsletter. I don't even do it. I have somebody else do it because I'm like, because they were like, this is the way to go, and then I'm like, okay, and then you send out 500 things, and only 50 open up. You're like,
yeah, but that's the law of numbers, dude.
yeah, and it's just, and you're like only 50. You're like, well, it's 50 strong.
Yeah.
And then like my homegirl's like, keep on pushing it. I'm like, yeah, I want to, but then I'm paying you every time. It's like you lose money because that's how it happened to me in the beginning. I lost a lot of money because I didn't know how to edit, and I was like, I learned real quick. I'm not paying you $50 an episode.
Yeah.
Time is 4 times a month, $200. Do the math, 12 months in a year. It's a lot of money. You better learn that real quick. And that's what I'm learning with the podcast, with the video game. It's like, all right, let's figure this out. Let me buy some cameras and stuff like that.
You don't want to. What I've kind of found is, I do want to ask you a question too, just personal curiosity thing. But before I do, what I've personally found is that it's this constant balancing game. It's like anybody who's ever like driven a boat, like a power, they have this thing called like trimming, where like, obviously if you're on a boat and in a car too, but it's less noticeable in a car. But like if there's too much weight on one side, the thing goes this way. On a car, you sometimes you'll be driving down the road and you'll see like the car leaning. But on a boat, it's extremely evident. If you ever been on a canoe, you know that. So like what happens is like you have so many different aspects of whatever it is you're trying to do. So in this case, a podcast. And the balancing game is you don't ever want one component to be limited by another component. And what I mean by that is like maybe you have a great podcast, maybe you have a great format, but you have shitty equipment, no video, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe you have a great podcast and great equipment and a great product overall, but you have no means of getting it in front of anybody's eyes, and you're just kind of releasing it out into the void, which, I think that's kind of the point we're at right now. But it's like, it's this constant balance of understanding it, like, A, you can't be the best at everything. And maybe in that time when you were paying somebody else to do that editing and stuff like that, that was the time you needed to figure out how to do it yourself.
Right.
But in the meantime, you were able to put out a good product that you would maybe not at that point in your editing experience would have been able to create. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly right.
So it's like, it's about understanding, A, that like you know, and I always come back to the band metaphor, but it's like, just because you're a good band doesn't mean that you know how to book gigs. And, you know, and that's why you have different people doing different shit, you know, and there's a lot of people that kind of go on that big thing like, man, I'm not paying for promotion, I'm not doing this. It's like, yeah, but like, that's kind of how it works. Like Drake didn't just release a mixtape. I mean, I know that's kind of how people want to think about it, that they like, and I know that like, I don't know, maybe he fucking did. I don't fucking know. My point is that when Rihanna puts out a fucking song, there is millions and millions and millions of dollars behind putting that in front of your fucking face. There are fucking fake tweets that you see, fake debates. Honestly, I sometimes I see Twitter and I see like a tweet and I'm like, I wouldn't know this song existed if this wasn't a Twitter argument. You know, that like now somebody's saying one thing. It's like sometimes I feel like a lot of that shit is like kind of like when you go through Instagram and you see like a screenshot and it's like, you know how like a lot of times they'll have like an ad, but the ad is like a screenshot of a tweet where it's like somebody else retweeting and they're like, OMG, how do I get my girlfriend this? And it's meant to kind of strike your brain as like, oh, this is an authentic person that think this is cool. That makes me think this is cool. And sometimes it's like all that marketing is done and like, that's part of the budget. Like there's a budget making the song and there's a budget getting it in your fucking ears. And there's certain people that like, if you don't have all those components balanced, first of all, it costs money. You know, to do something, to have these cameras and stuff like that costs money.
Oh, we know.
To get featured and like that, leading to the question I was going to ask you is I noticed that do you have actual sponsors, endorsements? I saw you drop what business was Maggie's or
Maggie's Farm.
Maggie's Farm.
Yeah.
And so like, was that something that you proactively sought out, or did they come to you and were like, hey, we want to be a part of this thing?
Shit, man. I mean, I have once upon a time I had like 6 sponsors. Then you start rationalizing things and like figuring out like, what does this make sense? Am I really making any money off of this? Am I keeping myself afloat on this? They're doing better than I am. They're getting the base, bargain basement. So my train of thought of doing the sponsorship was, if I go to Towson Hot Bakery, and I go
THB.
Yeah, THB. I go there every morning before work and grab a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. I better damn well know the manager there. I better know him. And I'm spending I spend money every damn day. I'm getting the coffee. So I'm dropping $10, $11, $12 every single day. I better know the manager. By this point, I better know the manager and say, hey, listen, I got something going on. Check it out. I would love to get to know who you are, so you know how I am. This is my business plan for my podcast. And that's how I approached that. And they were like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, we can put this right here. Okay, I get it. Okay, all right. What's the plan? Boom, boom. Show up. And that's how it works. That's how it's worked for me. Everything has been built on relationships. And I've had people who sought me out, but it wasn't the right fit. And you're like, Aaron, you turned down money? Yeah, you can turn down money because sometimes things don't make sense.
Yeah.
And so you just got to understand the hustle. And let me tell you, you guys know it. You hustle, and you hustle hard, Rick Ross. And, but you do it. You have to go and talk with these people to get these interviews. Like, I'm going to D.C. twice next month to hit interviews, but this is me behind the scenes grinding. Like, all right, let me email you. I got this one interview coming up. It's in D.C. next week. They've emailed me like 6 times in the last 2 days. I got a 9-to-5 job. Like I can't sit here and answer these questions that you want and think that you're gonna get the answer. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And I tell them like, hey, I got a 9-to-5 just like you. Mm-hmm. This is what you do. I don't have a secretary that can sit there. So, to answer your question, you hustle hard, you build relationships. Building relationships is the key. Once you build a relationship in that bridge, people want to work with you. They want to know, and you never know who's watching. And I always tell people, this one job that I'm about to do, cross my fingers, and I'll let you guys know when it happens, is out of fucking control. And it's like, how the hell did I even get here? And it's just about people, hey, you need to call Aaron up. He's doing some great things for Baltimore. Oh, he's doing this. He's doing more DC stuff. hey, give him a call. So that's why I was telling you guys. Right now, well, I'm telling it's exclusive. I don't know when it's dropping, but I'm fully booked into 2023.
Damn.
Like I really like I could have more people on. And I'm gonna have you guys on my show. I'm gonna bring you guys back on.
Love that.
This year though. But like the thing about it is like I can't overextend myself now anymore. Like there's no way. Because it's like, well, I want to be on the show. It's like, what are you gonna talk about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, and it could be a great story that you love and that you are all passionate about, but it's like it just doesn't fit right now. It doesn't fit on what I'm trying to do right now. So I think when I do a lot of these stories, think about A, do I like it? B, I have a group of friends who look at the review request. So that's behind the scenes. 3, I look at, all right, how my sponsors react to this interview? Will my sponsors be like, this is really dope. I'm happy to be a part of this. And that's what you try to do. So like when you see this the show's coming out this season, this comes out 8/29, I think 8/29, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I understand what he's doing now. And like you'll like I understand what he's hitting. Like and you're gonna be like, damn, he has a DC interview. He has a PA interview. He has this Airbnb interview. He has this person interview. You're like, okay, this motherfucker's he's still in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But he's like, I gotta get those markets. And like you said, marketing, when I drop those episodes on Instagram, I'm gonna pay that $50. And guess what? I'm gonna have it go to DC. I'm gonna have it marked right in DC because that's the crowd that this episode is gonna be about. And it's gonna push that DC. So I'm like, oh shit. Because what's happening is I'm interviewing one person in DC. Oh, you need to interview this other person. Oh, you need to talk. And that's just how that works. And then you figure out like who's the real McCoy, who really wants to have time for you, who really wants to really. And then another thing I'm gonna sign off with this is that I'm gonna finish up with this. I always ask people before I interview them, let's sit down and talk. I make time because I've had dud interviews where I'm like, this shit's garbage. And I'm just at this, and I'm 20 minutes, I'm like 5 minutes into the interview. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do like this interview. Like, but mentally, again, that's me not being even killed. Like, all right, let's just be professional and do it. And all these interviews, I talk with them now before, and I won't do an interview if I don't talk to them because I'm like, I don't know if you're gonna be good. Any other podcasts, I'm fine because podcasters, you know, they can talk.
Yeah.
But people,
Most of the time.
you hope. But no, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm done talking right now. But I just appreciate you guys.
No, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you
Wrap
guys.
things up.
Are there any questions you got to ask me before we roll out? Or
No,
fun.
I mean, I just want to give a big shouts out to God for not canceling my fucking shit for the third time over here with the OBS.
It's way more than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Fucking Steve Jobs shine down from heaven. Give me a little extra time on OBS. That was really polite of you, God. Thank you. Sorry for selling myself to the devil before this podcast. We'll take it up for you later.
We take it back.
I take it back, devil. You heard me? No, dude. Honestly, very happy to have you, dude.
I appreciate you guys.
Very
I
happy
appreciate
to
it.
have.
Check me on nopixafterdark.com. That's my website. You can hit me in
Pix
IG.
with the PIX, by
Yeah,
the way.
there you go. Hit me on IG. Hopefully, I can get these guys live. We do a live show somewhere and get,
you know
get
what?
their
I'll do it.
crowds.
We'll do
I
it.
think it'd be a fun ass just drinking, just talking some real shit. Like
My band will play. Who knows? You know, hey, look.
Who knows?
Who said that?
I got a place. I'm just saying, I got a place. But we'll talk offline. But I appreciate you guys, your time. You guys have a dope show. Keep fucking pumping the episodes. You said something that was so important that I loved: consistency. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yep.
If you're not consistent, nobody's gonna listen.
I wish that consistent rhymed with listen. All I could think in that moment you said that, I was like, it's got the same ST. It's not working, but it's a beautiful. It's the truth. It's the truth. And then I will just sign off with saying this: is that so many of the developments that happen as you. All right, Steve.
speak
We're
of the
wrapping it
devil.
up, Steve. Jesus, literally speak of the devil. All of those developments, you look back at where you're at in any given moment, and you learn this from talking to people that have really kind of quote unquote made it. Is that a lot of times in the beginnings when we would do these interviews or whatever podcasts, and I would always ask the question like, at what moment did you realize that you were really doing something? And the answer is pretty unanimously there wasn't any given moment. That like it was this gradual progression of like, and I you know, to use COVID as a metaphor, in just the way that things suddenly, like all of a sudden, the phrase "the new normal" kept getting kicked around all the time. And I think that we as a society really experienced just how easy it is to get used to something. And that's a blessing and a curse, because in a lot of ways you can be doing something on a day in, day out basis consistently. And because it's the same way that, like, you know, I can look at a picture of myself from 15 years ago and be like, that's not me. But I don't remember ever waking up any given morning and being like, yo, I look mad different today. It's just a gradual thing, you know? So it's about understanding that as long as you're consistent, moving in the right direction, that, you know, a lot of times you lose sight that you're actually really doing something because you're used to it. You know, but then I ask myself, like, wow, like, you know, this happens right now, meeting a guy like you, and it's like, because you just get so in the zone, you're just like, yeah. But then in reality, like, if you zoom out, this is cool. I'm glad you came through. It's cool that we linked up and, you know, everything.
I love it.
It's great.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Any plugs? Anything else you want to plug?
Hey,
besides
man,
the show?
Hey, the new season comes out. I don't know when this episode is dropping, but the new season comes out 8/29. I got some cool stuff. I got some amazing guests coming on that will fuck your head up a little bit. I got some controversial shit that I think people need to be like. Baby. People need to be like, oh, okay. I need you to. I want you to think. I want you to think. I want you. And I don't have a name for this album or this season. I don't have a name for it.
I was just gonna say that I love that you talk about it in the format of seasons, but now even more so as you slipped up and said album. That's so fucking dope.
Yeah, I look at it like that. I don't know what it's
a collective work of art.
It's gonna be beautiful.
You know, guys, this episode has been brought to you by Corona Light and Gatorade Zero, and a new drink I'm pitching, Corona Raid. Let's see how it tastes.
This is for the TikTok.
Corona Raid. It's not that bad. Guys, at Jimmy Selesky on everything. I will be at the horse you came in on. That means a lot for anybody who knows. I will be at the horse you came in on with the band. Friday, August 12th. With the band.
Upset.
You heard me.
With underdogs.
The band. From 10 to close. That's Friday, August 12th. I will be at the Lost Ark Distillery in Columbia with the infamous, America's Most Wanted, Joe Niehaus, from 6 to 9. And, of course, Nacho Mamas in Towson from 1 to 4 on Sunday, August 14th. And don't forget, every Tuesday at Perennial. We know this. I don't even have to say it. I don't even know why I did. At Sophomore MD, we got a new single coming out this month. It's called In Motion. It's good. I'll leave it at that. It is good, and I don't say that lightly. Eric, what you got coming up before our computer explodes?
Yeah. At Eric Glazer on everything. You can also listen to me on Jimmy's new track, In Motion.
Oh, shit. I forgot about
on the
that.
Background vocals. And then also, keep an eye peeled for the Baltimore Comedy Festival happening Labor Day weekend.
Huge.
You know, I'm going to be on one of those shows, but I'm not going to tell you which one yet. You got to come to all of them to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a little too early to be dropping specifics like that.
Exactly.
Baltimore Comedy, forgot about that.
Coming out.
That's a huge plug. I forgot about that. It's that time of year, baby.
It's
Baltimore.
that time of the year.
This is the third annual? Fourth annual?
The season. It's like the 6th.
Oh, shit.
It's correct. It's kind of crazy.
Well, what's important is it's the infinity year in a row that I haven't been on the shirt. So we'll leave it at that. Guys, at LFTS Podcast on everything. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. Be one of our first subscribers. Just kidding. We have a few. At No Pix After Dark. Follow at No Pix After Dark. And that's it. Don't follow anyone else. All right? Learn your boundaries. Until next week, folks.
Peace.
Peace.